What's up, good people? Welcome to the Bro Code Show. It's your boy, Mr. YM4C, aka Bro Troy. And happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there. This is dedicated to the lovers.
To the lovers. I got you.
Tonight is the first night of our two-part series where we'll be discussing everything relationships, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Our guest for this two-part series will touch on monogamy, marriage, single life, sex life, and everything in between. So tonight's show is sponsored by The Barbershop. Shout out to Reggie Winston, owner of The Barbershop, located at 4551 New Bern Avenue, Suite 180 in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, check out The Barbershop for all your premier grooming services, and don't forget to ask them about their memberships to save you time and money. Now, fellas, I'm really excited about the upcoming event in collaboration with the mentorship program of YM4C in The Barbershop, which will be on Saturday, March 27th. Part one will be that YM4C fine dining etiquette workshop, fellas. Really excited about this, man. It'll be hosted at The Barbershop, where we'll introduce table manners, common courtesies while dining in a group setting, or even on a date through interactive role-playing exercises. Now, each one of the young men that participate will receive complimentary grooming services to include a haircut and a manicure. Each young man will also be presented with a new suit, complete with shirt, tie, and a pair of socks. The next Tuesday, March the 30th, the young men will be suited and booted, looking good and smelling like $1,000,000. Luda! And they'll be chauffeured to Second Empire Tavern in downtown Raleigh. There, they'll share thought-driven, facilitated conversation with leaders in education, business, and politics over a 3-course meal. The goal is to mature social development skills, increase confidence in learning new things, and to promote a growth mindset. Now, the YM4C mentor program coaches young men ages 8 to 18 through life skills, character development, and social emotional curriculum during one-on-one sessions. Now, our young men are exposed to opportunities that include monthly community service initiatives, golf development program, and of course, our fine dining etiquette workshop. For those that like to learn more, please call us at 919-714-9905 to learn more. Now, for those who've never had a Bro Code experience, first, welcome. The Bro Code Show is a live talk show created to discuss, uncover, justify, and dismantle issues that concern us most as brothers, as family, and as a community. And we like to give that to you raw, uncut, and real respectful. Now, our greatest desire is to embrace everyone in positive, popular conversation. So no, we're not in the business of bashing, belittling, or shaming anyone, but we do believe in being comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations. Why? Because that's where understanding starts. So as Grandma would say, let's chew the meat and spit out the bone. So real quick, we got some housekeeping things, man. Please like and share this post right now. Allow the ripple effect to go. Go to @BroCode Show on Instagram. Like our page. Go to YouTube, YM4C Space TV. Like and share that and hit the notification button. So when we go live, you'll know it. Fellas, what's happening, man? It's Love Day. It's cold and it's raining, man. Bro Smith, what's good, man? Tell me something good.
Oh man, Tom Brady got his 7th ring. At the end of the day, I felt good about it. I'm okay with it. He deserved it. They beat Mahomes and them boys up to a bloody pulp, man. So, and he had a lot of diversity in his staff, and so I was really digging that story, all things considered. So, and then I'm glad to be alive. Today's gonna be a good day. Already is.
Indeed, man. Indeed, bro. Kurt, what's good? I see you grinning over there, man. What's up, man?
Yeah, man, I'm grinning, man. And here's why. First of all, yes, it is a good day. But I got to ask JC, did he hear the news that Tom was actually about to get traded to my Cowboys? So that's in the works. That's what I hear. I'm just throwing it out there. That's
wow. Okay.
That's probably the only way we're going to ever win anything. So let's see if he can win with the Cowboys.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're taking anybody at quarterback now. You need to pay Dak. That's what the Cowboys need to do is pay that guy.
No doubt, no doubt.
I get it.
But I felt I don't want to not mention Mayor Gilbert from last week and having that experience and hearing his story.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And then what was Sylvia? What was the name of the armadillo? Was it Sylvia?
Yeah, Sylvia.
Yeah, man. We got to
yeah.
go check Sylvia out, man. I don't know if I want to hold the armadillo. I maybe because he had gloves on. More power to him, brother.
Yeah.
More power to him. So tonight we got a special conversation, fellas. Obviously, everything is about relationships, and nothing great happens alone. So we got a few special guests. Let's introduce the guests. So tonight we have Keith Dent. Now, Keith is an author, motivational speaker, and coach. Keith is a certified empowerment coach by the Institute for Professional Empowerment Coaching. He is also author of In the Paint, How to Win the Game of Love. Keith Dent works with couples to help them achieve the kind of relationships they've envisioned when they first made their commitment to each other. Strengthening communication and revitalizing their understanding and empathy for each other helps couples regain the romance and closeness they long for, even in their everyday real world. Fellas, help me welcome to the show my man Keith Dent. Keith, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on tonight? How you guys doing?
Man, I'm excited, man. We're excited to have you, man. So for the people that are at least listening, Keith, who is Keith Dent at the core, man? What makes you you, brother?
Well, before I get into that, I just want to thank the Bro Code for having me on. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody that is listening tonight. And who am I at the core? Well, first of all, I have to say I'm a husband. I've been married 25 years. Coming up in November. I'm a father of 3. I have a 14-year-old, had a birthday just a couple days ago, 17-year-old, and a 22-year-old. They have challenged me in ways that I probably didn't imagine when I had children, but I mean, it has been very rewarding. And then just with my wife, she has been the rock of our family, and I really, dedicate, as far as the 25 years that we've been together has been really fantastic. And so, but what I feel I am to the core is, those things, but I'm also someone that loves the Lord, and I feel He's gifted me with this opportunity to be a coach and to really help couples really live their authentic lives and their authentic selves and how they want to be as couples. And it's interesting story how I even came to be a coach. So, and I don't know, I have quickly just shared a little bit, but when I was working in corporate, I was going to a sales call and the radio wasn't working. I'm a big radio guy, love to listen to the radio, but it wasn't working. And felt that God was speaking to me that I should go into coaching. And at the time, I was thinking that it was a baseball coach because I played baseball in college. And I'm a big Yankee fan. Shout out to the Yankees out there. And so I thought that's what God, wanted me to go in that direction and be a baseball coach. Well, I did coach for a little while in baseball, but then it didn't work out the way I thought it would. And then I ended up, doing this, from this, and it took a while from that journey, but I'm really glad that I do it now. So I really appreciate the journey that I've been on.
And we're going to have a journey tonight, Keith, and we're glad that you came along for it, brother. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, too.
We also have an international rock star. She goes by the name of Meg Cowan. Now, Meg is an activation method coach and Protect accredited trainer, which is Australia's leading self-protection and defense agency. Now, fellas, y'all heard me right. Yeah, Meg resides in New Zealand. Now, fellas, mark your calendar 2/14/21. This is the date that the Bro Code goes international, baby. I think that is applause for celebration.
Big pimpin', baby.
Hey!
Big pimpin'. I feel that.
Yes, indeed, international. If I had the DJ Khaled horn, I would be blowing it right now. Now, Meg works one-on-one with clients and facilitates group coaching and community workshops about sex, relationships, and women's empowerment. Now, as an entrepreneur and business coach, Meg found herself unable to ignore the need for sex and intimacy coaching within the church. Meg began using her coaching skills, and women started sharing their hearts about sex and intimacy in their marriage, and all kinds of amazing breakthroughs started to happen. women were dropping shame that they carried for years and finally started living with wild, free hearts. Fellas, help me welcome Meg Cowan to the show. Meg, what's going on? How you feeling?
Hey, welcome. I'm so honored to be the first international guest. So pleased to join you here.
Yes, sir. We are Black History, Meg, and we are setting it right now on 2/14/21.
Yeah.
Indeed, man. So, Meg, I'm curious. We heard a little bit about you, but tell us a little bit more about your background and what makes you. Who is Meg at the core?
Sure, absolutely. So, at my core, I think I love conversations that connect. I love conversations that heal and that bring expression for people who maybe don't have a voice. And so that is what I studied through school when I went to university, and that's what my coaching has become, more and more an opportunity to give women voice and give them expression specifically in their relationships. And so at my core, I guess I'm confident now in saying I'm brave and I'm bold and I'm prepared to go into the conversations that maybe other people wouldn't necessarily. And that wasn't always me, but I'm kind of proud to say that now that's at the core of who I am, is that I will have these conversations that matter because I see the fruit and the result of them and people getting free and relationships flourishing when we have these conversations. So I'm so stoked that you guys have created this space to have these kinds of conversations.
Awesome. Well, let's have the conversation. JC, what's happening?
Yeah, let's get right into it. Obviously Valentine's Day is a big holiday. Not just here in America, but throughout the world. It's considered one of the more romantic holidays of the year. Now, this year, consumers in the U.S. are expected to spend an estimated $22 billion on Valentine's Day. And that's a decrease of $5 billion from the previous record high just 1 year earlier. But like most holidays, this holiday is going to feel different. Obviously, COVID-19 and social distancing has dramatically altered the landscape of dating, love, and sex. The pandemic has somehow created this paradox when it comes to relationships where we're scared of close contact with other people, but we long for a reassuring physical touch to feel safe and sound in a world full of chaos. Social media and dating apps have also changed the way relationships are built and sustained for all generations and backgrounds of people. Whether you're looking for farmers only, to mingle with Christians, or to bumble your way around, there's a ton of prospects out there that are just this swipe or click away, but that has its pros and cons. The rise of online dating, it comes at this time when norms and behaviors around marriage and cohabitation were already changing as more people are delaying marriage and choosing to remain single. All in all, love might be in the air on Valentine's Day, but just how you feel about the holiday really depends on your age and whether or not you're in a relationship. Because just as this is considered to be the most romantic holiday, a lot of people see it as one of the loneliest days of the year. Some might even see it as unnecessary, as one should show their love every day, not necessarily just on one particular day. I think it ultimately has a bigger purpose than ever, though, this year. The pandemic has afforded us this once-in-a-lifetime extended opportunity to develop the relationship that is the foundation of all of our other relationships. And that's the relationship with ourselves. And so while dating and marriage during COVID-19 is teaching us a whole bunch of things, one of the things that I'm picking up from this is it's important to look at kindness, curiosity, and practice patience. And I'm excited as ever as we have a relationship coach and an intimacy guru, who I've never had the pleasure of talking to an intimacy guru, to share a variety of insights with us that are going to help us make sense of this. And so, Meg, I would love to start with you. You told us a little bit about your background. I'm wondering if you can expand upon that a little more, as well as what life experiences have helped mature you to be a voice for sex surrounding married couples.
Yeah, well, I've never been introduced as an intimacy guru before. That's a first, so thanks. I don't know if I'm a guru, but I definitely love the topic and have some skills there. So I'm happy to have this conversation. I guess my greatest pain is what I have worked out of. They often say that your mission can come out of your greatest pain. And for me, growing up in a conservative Christian environment with purity culture, so that real abstinence only, strong focus on modesty. A lot of that environment contributed to how I felt about myself sexually. A lot of the confusion that I felt as I then went on and got married. I was told that if I did everything right, then I would get married and it would be all rainbows and butterflies. And then I followed the rules. I got to my wedding as a technical virgin. It's not, technical. And then when I got there into my marriage, even though I had a husband who I loved, over the period of, 8 to 10 years, the first 8 to 10 years of our marriage, I realized that, wow, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. I realized I had a lot of repression. I had a lot of shame around sexuality. I'd repressed my sexuality and my voice in that area for so long that just getting to the altar and saying yes didn't mean that I was automatically in a space where I would feel good about sex, even though it was now kind of allowed, quote unquote allowed. And then my work has grown out of that space, because I realized that I wasn't alone and that this was a very common story for very, very many women, especially women in the church. And so that's kind of how I wound up here.
Wow. Now, man, I wish we could get into that technical virgin comment more, but we may circle that around at some point. But for now, I'm going to learn a little bit more about Keith. And so you use words like empathy and communication in the bio that I went over. How big of a role have you seen these words play in the relationships of those you coach?
Well, I think it plays a major part in when I work with couples, because of the fact that a lot of times couples look at the relationship from their own personal issues, and then they don't really, and then they'll project their own issues onto their partner. And instead of thinking that their own partner will also have issues or will view the relationship from a different way. And so that's kind of why I like to use the team concept in working with couples. So they can, it automatically, lets each other know that they're going to be working together. In order for them to get to where they want to go, they have to be together and also have the empathy to understand where that person's coming from. And if they don't, that's when there are some challenges that come up. And then communication is really kind of the backbone of what your relationship is going to be in regards to sex being one of them, intimacy. In order to get to that point, you're going to have to tell your partner what your needs are. You can't just automatically feel you're going to just cater to that person's needs all the time, because that's just not going to work. You have needs and your partner's going to have needs as well. So you're going to have to communicate them for a couple of reasons. One, to be spontaneous, to keep that going, and then to satisfy your partner as well as yourself.
Good stuff. So are there any, how do I say, principles that are more key for what you're coaching your clients on? I guess that's a question for both of you, Meg and Keith. What are some of those fundamental principles or frameworks that you have when you're coaching your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll jump in. So a couple of the key things that I work with women, and I actually work with men as well, but primarily women, is understanding agency. So understanding that you are your own first, understanding that your body is your own, and along with all those questions around consent or topics around consent that, that's heavy in the media at the moment, and for good reason, but really understanding that even within a marriage, you're in a relationship, you absolutely have agency and have expression in the relationship. So understanding agency is a big, important part of the work that I do, but then also storytelling and the ability to name our story, the opportunity to own our story and to go back and rewrite our story if that's something that needs to happen, if we've been repressed, and create a new way that we want to engage with our sexuality. Those would probably be the first two things that I would say are key frameworks. There's more, but I'll leave it there.
Okay.
So, Meg, I have to know this. And I read a stat that you posted, right? And first of all, I get to say orgasm. So I get to say orgasm because you said orgasm gap. There's this huge gap that is men record having a 91% success rate of having an orgasm. You said women have a 39%. So there's a 52% gap. First of all, that blows my mind, right? And so I have to know how do you work? How does your work attempt to bridge that gap so that both sets of the couples are happy?
Yeah, so specifically in the work that I do where they're a woman of faith or dismantling some of those shame beliefs, we first go in and we shine the light on where those shame beliefs have come in, because shame has a big part to play in how free and how confident a woman feels sexually. So we do some work around that. But I would say that on this orgasm gap, actually it requires women to be a little bit selfish, it might even seem like. You know, they actually have to own the fact that it's okay for their pleasure to come first. It's okay for their pleasure to be an important part of the equation. And I don't know how technical we can go with YouTube, and so I won't use a bunch of anatomical words, but we have a set view of what sex is, right? It's penetration, and that's actually often not what creates satisfaction for women. That alone doesn't create satisfaction for women. There's got to be there's got to be a lot of other work that goes into sexual intimacy to make it satisfying for women. Now, what's interesting about this orgasm gap is that having orgasm as your goal actually isn't the best way to go about addressing it. Having pleasure as your goal is the best way to start working on this. So pleasure is the measure. There's a brilliant sex educator and therapist called Emily Nagoski, and she talks about this phrase, pleasure is the measure. So if you are just going after the big O, and trying to think that that's going to solve everything, it's not like a silver bullet. It doesn't solve it all. But go after pleasure. Are you both mutually engaging in something that is pleasurable to both of you? But then what is interesting about orgasm is that statistics also tell us that female orgasm is a key indicator of relational success. So it is something that definitely for the men in the house, if your woman is not leaving satisfied, don't go in there with a goal of getting her to the big O, but go in there with the goal being pleasure. How can I make this a pleasurable experience for her, and how can she be satisfied in this? And as a result, you often see the appreciation and the pleasure across the board and across the relationship improve.
So I love all of that. And I learned this as a man a lot older in my age, that I had to start it maybe in the morning versus at night. So appreciate that. So Keith, I want to venture to you and ask you a question about relationships, and you have a lot of experience, but would love to hear some of the most common areas of discord and how your work bridges the gap for that.
Well, before I get to that, I know that with the orgasm gap, you're not surprised, but because we as men, and we think about ourselves first most of the time. And I think it's also culturally how things are addressed, especially here in the U.S. We talk about the fact that it's all about the man. It's all about, how many women we have, or how we hold it down in the bedroom. Very rarely will we talk about making sure our partners are pleasured and have pleasure. So when you go into these relationships, and this kind of goes to marriage, we have no real clue in what we need to do in order to make sure that our spouses feel satisfied. and it's really all about, and not just from sex as well, also just from the intimacy level. We're not very adept as far as intimacy. What does it mean to be intimate? And it is different from sex, and we don't have those tools or learn them right away. And so, and that's probably one of the major things that our wives, our girlfriends are looking for. They're looking for intimacy above sex. They really want to feel needed by us and also loved by us. And those are key indicators, which we have to really start to learn and admit that we don't know it, and figure out how to way to get it.
If you're checking in here with the Bro Code Show, we're talking about everything relationships. We have Meg Cowan from New Zealand, as well as Keith Dent from New Jersey is in the building. So we're talking about many of things. We've heard pleasure is the measure. I had to write that one down. That was good. Keith, you talk about knowing almost, I guess if I could sum it up, the love language, right? And listening to your mate and making sure that you're able to mimic some of those things, being mindful, if you may. So we want to take a real quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on everything relationships right here on the Bro Code Show.
What's up, sports fans? This is Petey on the streets. Have you heard about the Raleigh Firebirds? If not, you need to check them out at RaleighFirebirds.net. If you haven't got your season tickets yet, go visit RaleighFirebirds.net. Also, you can call or text 919-830-0305. Catch you at the home games at the Dream Center right here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Until then, Petey on the streets.
We want to switch gears real quick. This next question is for everybody. This is our would you rather question. So I encourage all our viewers to chime in on this one and share your thoughts in the chat. The question says, would you rather be reincarnated as a sea creature or an airborne creature? So if you could be reincarnated, would you rather be a creature that was in the water or in the air? So I'm going to start with you, JC. What you think, bro?
Oh, man, I didn't even have my answer ready. I'm going to go with the air, though. I thought about the ocean just because it's almost like a whole different universe down there. But I'm going to go with the air. I like to travel and things of that nature, so I'll stick with the air.
Any particular, or just?
I mean, if I'm going to be any animal, any air creature, I'm going to go with I'm going to go for falcon.
Yeah. Something that's higher up on the food chain, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be endangered like the bald eagle, but I'm going to go with the falcon.
I can dig that. So, Meg, how about yourself? So, if you're reincarnated, Meg, you going for water or you going for air?
This is so easy for me. It's never, ever going to be the ocean. Never. And I live on an island, and I love the beach, but we have just had a great white in the harbor recently, which is unusual for our area. I'm like, no. I'm never going to the ocean. So I will 100% go to the air. And I would be what we call a kahu, which is, I guess, like a falcon. It's the native kind of hawk, or probably one of our larger birds here. And there's a lot of beautiful significance with the kahu in Māori culture, the indigenous Māori culture. And so I would be a kahu for sure.
Yeah, I love it. What you think, Keith? You going to the air or you going to the ocean?
Well, I'm going to triple down on that, on the air. But it's funny. I was thinking about that. I was like, you're going to be in the sea if you want to go deeper. And I was thinking about, relationships or personality. If you want to go deeper with your relationships, you're going to be in the ocean. But I like to travel and have, I guess, different relationships. So, yes, I definitely would be in air because, one, I love hawks. So I definitely would be in the hawk.
I can dig that. What you think, Kurt?
So I don't like salt, so I'm gonna have to go with the air too. And I was gonna be a bald eagle, but Jay already told me that I'm about to be extinct. So I'm gonna be rolling with Keith and be a hawk. Just hang out in the sky, baby.
I can dig that. I can dig that. So I think I'm the same way as a visionary too. I totally equate with the air and seeing things from a different perspective. I too obviously would be a predator bird. I once read a quote. I don't know if it was the eagle, the falcon, one of them birds, one of them big birds. That it when things start to peck at it, it just continues to rise because the other birds can't breathe in that altitude. So as you continue to rise, everything else just falls off. So it's not even worth paying attention to it. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I thought that was really dope. At least that's what I got out of it, right? So I think we all, I think we went 5 for 5 on air creatures on this one, didn't we?
Right.
Okay, hey man, never had that one. Another Black History moment on the Bro Code, man. So hey, we making things happen here on Love Day, man. So Quick Keith has been said, and I'm sure everybody on the call has heard this before, man. We all got a book in us. You know, and Keith, you actually have done such, man. You have a book out called In the Paint, How to Win the Game of Love. You know, Keith, I'd really love to hear, you know, what inspired you to write this book, and man, how has it helped others?
Well, thank you for that. Well, what really happened was a friend of mine, you know, who I was very close with. We went to Yankee games together, and her friend, girlfriend, actually called me and said, you know, they were not working out, and which I thought was interesting because they'd known each other a very long time, but they just were not communicating well when it came to their relationships. And so what happened is that she told me is that, well, he's passionate about the Yankee games or the baseball games, but when it came to the relationship and couldn't talk. And so I just thought it was fascinating. And one of the things is that, as if you know, and I'm sure if you listen to any sports talk show, you hear the passion of men going about their sports team. We, you know, it was talked about earlier with Tom Brady and then the Cowboys. I can't stand the Cowboys, but we have passion when it comes to things that we care about. So, but when it came to relationships, we just have some issues. So I said, well, if a couple, or if it was really more primarily to help women, if a woman could speak in sports languages, men would understand. So if your spouse went to you and said, "Oh, we need a timeout," you would know what it meant. If you were like, "Well, why are you asking me that question?" That means you at least understood. And then the wife or the girlfriend could expand upon what that meant, and you might understand, as opposed to just like, you're not listening to me, or, you know, you just tuning them out. So that's why I wrote the book. And I focused on basketball as opposed to, let's say, why not football or why not baseball? I focused on basketball because, at least here in the U.S., you know, it is a team game, but individuals are highlighted. So in relationships, you are a team, but you also have to be individualistic as well. And so, hence In the Paint.
Well, Keith, I'm gonna need a copy of that book, because in basketball language, you know, I've got a technical and 4 fouls right now, so I'm playing the game real careful at the present moment. I saw a post that you shared that you stated that 25% of men are committing to marriage even when there's no love. I'm curious if you can help walk us through, how does that happen?
Well, the thing is, a lot of times sex and love are two different things. And so if the sex is great, you think, well, the love is going to follow. And so you have ended up getting married, and then before you know it, you're in maybe a child or two. And then you think, well, I don't love this woman, or I don't even, and a better one, I don't even know this. I don't know this woman. What does she stand for? What are her core values? Do they align with mine? And that's really a big part of love. Do you have the same core values? So when things get tight, or you mess up or they mess up, can you sustain the relationship? As opposed to, well, soon as somebody messes up, well, I'm out. It just wasn't worth it. And that's a lot. And that's what I mean, and that's what I mean by that quote.
Good stuff. So Meg, on your IG, you shared something about a body keeping score. We'd love to hear about your thought process on that and how you translate that to the clients that you coach.
Yeah, sure. Just before I do, can I just go back to what Keith said? Because I think you made a really important point. Keith, you were speaking about how I've just had a mind blank on I had a really good point. What did you just say? Oh, how did that happen? I was thinking about the next question. Keith, what did you just say? Tell me again.
I was like, what did I just say?
Guys, I had such a good point.
No, but what I was saying is that when when it's involving sex, if the sex is great, then they're going to stay in the relationship and think that it's good.
I've got it.
Yeah. So
Sorry. Oh my gosh. I was thinking about the next question. I lost that. So I wanted to touch on the thing that you said about re-meeting your partner. So often you can have kids and it feels like, is this even the person I first got together with? Mm-hmm. And I really encourage people to re-meet their partners, to re-meet their spouses, because kids do change things. Hormones change things. Also, your partner evolves in their beliefs and their thinking. And it's when we get familiar and think that we know them, that then we can get really familiar and a little bit bored and a little bit over it. So I loved what you said there, Keith, and I just wanted to touch on that point now that it's back in my brain. So about the keeping score, is that, yeah?
Hold on, before you go to that, I think you two just hit something that I'm pretty sure our viewers would want to know a little bit more of what you just talked about, because I have a lot of friends who are struggling with the issue both you and Keith just spoke on. Can you tell me some tips on how we could reconnect with our loved one?
Do you want to take this one, Keith? You go first.
I'll go first. The best thing is you need to ask questions. You need to ask questions about your partner. And what's so funny is that they can be, I guess, challenging questions. You can switch them up. They can be fun questions. And I think it just creates a sense of curiosity of your partner. I think a lot of times we go into relationships and marriages and think that they're not going to change. They're going to be the same to when you got married and to when, depending on how long it lasts. My wife says to me all the time, and I agree, is that, I'm a different person than I was 25 years ago. And if if you're going to live, of course you're different. But in marriages, and maybe and I can't say we are at fault, but I think it happens for both couples, is that we don't really know our partners. And over time, we just need to ask questions and get to know what their likes are now. And if you can do that and then act accordingly and be spontaneous in your relationship, you get, as Meg says, you can re-meet your partner where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think further to that, there's something that the Gottman Institute described as love maps. And love maps are really understanding the internal world of your partner. And so that can be in the big and the challenging areas, but that can also just be in the day-to-day life things or the things that have happened in their history. Like, I love it when my husband, we've been married 18 years this year, and I love it when we sit down and I learn something new about him. And we actually have to go after this intentionally because, you're at a party or you're out with friends and you're like, oh yeah, there goes a story about the dog, or there goes a story about this. You know their stories after a while. You're really familiar with them. And so this thing that the Gottman Institute have, you can just Google it. Like, this is not an endorsement. I don't work for them or anything, but it's a great resource. Just go ahead and Google. And I think they've actually even got an app called Card Decks. And it's got a whole lot of questions you can ask your partner. And it's stuff about like, what was the most embarrassing moment you had when you were young? Or who was a key person in your childhood growing up? And it's just a whole range of questions, because getting to understand the internal world of your partner helps with that re-meeting. And it stops you from making just quite so many assumptions about who your partner is right now.
Now, did I hear you correctly? You say card dicks?
It's called card decks, DECKS.
Okay, don't get me in trouble Googling on the internet, card dicks. You never know what's going to pop up. All right, I just want to make sure.
I can write it for you. But if you look at the Gottman Institute,
all right.
And that's the accent, sorry.
Okay, no problem. I'm clear.
Yeah, and going back to what Meg said as far as re-meeting, because my wife and I incorporated kind of what we call white table talk. I mean, I know if anyone knows Jada Pinkett Smith and her red table talk, we just call it white table talk because we have a white table. And so, and we make sure, and that's every day where we meet and we have coffee. And we just talk about, it could be what's on our mind, or just maybe what we were watching last night. But it just gives an opportunity to have a scheduled time together and be intentional about making sure you're connecting with your partner.
That's good stuff. One of the bug words that we always talk about, fellas, is being intentional. So we've talked about a few things. Meg, I heard you earlier, you mentioned 18 years this year, right? You and your husband. And earlier in the conversation, Keith, you mentioned 25 this November. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, man. So me and my wife will be celebrating 9 in July. And I've known her for 15. The few of the things you've hit on kind of hit home for me. One, being spontaneous, being intentional. And then assumptions. We already know what happens when we assume. We talked about this last week, fellas. But nonetheless, man, longevity in marriage, let's be honest, has been a rarity. I know my grandparents, they were married. I know they celebrated probably about close to 30 years, How about you, Bro Smith? How long you and your parents been together? It makes you think, right? Like, wow.
They're 80. I think they've been together 55, 56 years.
5, man. And let's be honest, that alone is somewhat of a rarity today. It's always encouraging to see couples be proactive in their relationship goals. So anyway, man, I saw a media clip. We get a lot of media clips now, man. We try to live in that positive space. But I saw one about a couple that celebrated 82 years of marriage. Hear me well. 82 years of marriage. And I want to play the clip. And once we see the clip, I'd love to hear from our panelists about what you think.
Couple is celebrating more than 8 decades of marriage. DW and Willie Williams have been married for 82 years.
It's been a long time since DW and Willie Williams met in Newberry, South Carolina.
Oh, she's good looking. I felt the same.
The year was 1937, and although pictures from that day don't exist, the memories do.
I thought he was handsome. At that time.
DW is now 103 years old. His bride right behind him at 100. And together they share 1 daughter, 1 granddaughter, and 82 years of marriage.
People might not believe, but we have never been the type that will fuss and fight. We just find funny things to talk about.
Speaking of, after 80 plus years, what do you talk about?
If my fingernail hurt, whatever bothers me.
They can laugh about anything, but there is nothing funny about their devotion to each other and the man upstairs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
While they don't get out much, they do make it to church every Sunday in the front pew at First Mayfield Memorial Baptist.
The good Lord was taking care of us.
The couple says they don't have any secret to their longevity. All they have is love for each other and God, who they say is solely responsible for their 82 years together.
Had not been for him, we couldn't have made it.
And maybe a little love, too.
Come on here.
Huh? They still got it.
if that's not the sweetest thing you've ever seen today.
That's great.
Yeah, man. But they've stayed married longer than most people stay alive, period. And mind you, this video is old. This was that was 2019. So, it's mind blowing just thinking about it. But I'm curious, Meg. I want to start with you. From your experience, has long lasting marriages become taboo? Has the idea of marriage become more transactional than transformational?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, look at the society we live in. We live in a pretty consumerist, throwaway, get it quick, get it fast. It's got to be all about you kind of society. And while I definitely think there is a time and a place, absolutely, where it's best for some people to walk away from their relationships. I do think that it's important that some people walk away from bad relationships. I do think that there is a sense of, if it's broken, we'll fix it, that, my grandparents had. I know my grandparents went through tricky times in their relationship, but they got tools. They learned how to communicate better. They worked stuff out. And so while that's not the best path for everybody, and I do want to preface that because I do think that sometimes Christian women particularly stay longer in damaging and abusive marriages than they should. So definitely, walk away if you're in any way unsafe. But I do think that we need to look at, is this something that I can actually work on, where I need to just upskill? Maybe you just don't have the communication skills. Maybe you just don't have, like Keith said, the right language so you understand each other and you can actually talk to each other in ways that you each can get on board with and understand. So, yeah, I think it's beautiful. I mean, gosh, I just want to live to 82, let alone be married for 82 years.
I totally understand that one, right? So, Keith, what about yourself, man? What do you think, brother?
I was going to refute that just a bit, only because I know out of my friends that I went to school with, 4 out of the 6 of us have been married 15 plus years. So I do think it's easier to focus on what isn't working, as opposed to what is working. That's kind of boring. So we'd rather focus on the other side of it because that's what sells. It sells as far as, trying to find another mate, all of that stuff is, what makes good TV, so to speak. But I think also a couple of things are at play in order to have the longevity of a marriage of 80 plus years. My parents have been married 53 years. So some of the things that's important is that, one, we as I think also as men, because that's our problem, if we have to take care of our health, you've got to be healthy in order to live, that long. And we tend to not do that as well. And that's, and you can tell by the mortality rate. So that's one. And two, we have to make sure we align with our partners in regards to core values. So the couple's core values that they go to church every Sunday. So they both are aligned that way. And we have to make sure we're aligned with our partners in order to get to that point.
I touched earlier on just the amount of options that are at people's fingertips. What impact do you think that plays in people either feeling as if they need to get married and exploring the fish in the sea, going back to the whole sea thing, and or the success of whether or not they can avoid those distractions as far as what else is out there for folks that are already in a committed relationship? How does that play into those dynamics, Keith?
I think the problem, it just makes it easier to not work at it. When there's an option on the other side, you're going to say, well, hey, I'll just work at, but if let's just say, and it's so funny, I was on a show last week, and we were talking about, it was primarily on dealing with relationships, and at some point, if your relationships are not working, you're going to have to look at yourself. And we tend to put it on somebody else. And if you are constantly not in it or moving from, this dating app to the next one, and your relationships still aren't working out, there's going to be a point where you're just going to have to look at yourself, and that's what we're not doing.
Good. Meg, any follow up to that?
No, I think that's a great point. I think wherever you're at with your sexuality, with your relationship, whether you're single, partnered, married, you have to constantly take stock of what's happening in you. You know, you're going to be the common denominator, whether you go into one marriage or 5 marriages or relationships. You know, if something's not working, you got to take a look in here first. And so I think, yeah, Keith, you're absolutely right. And I just love that you guys are opening up this conversation and saying, hey, let's think about this. Let's talk about this. Let's be healthier in this area. Because even just shining the light of awareness on these topics helps you to really look and take stock and go, okay, where do I need to adjust? Where can I make my relationship better? So excellent. Love that you're doing this.
Well, we certainly appreciate the conversation from New Zealand, fellas. You're going to make me play Jay-Z one more time. I'm not going to do it. But anyway, Keith, man, Megan, we appreciate you guys both. You're absolutely right. If I could kind of wrap this in my own little bun with me being a married man and us getting ready to celebrate 9 this year, man, what I've really heard and what I was in tune with, sex and love differ. And, you know, the definition of those things, and really being in tune. The other word I heard too was alignment and core values. You know, so and we heard that several different times. So regardless of the relationship, obviously marriage is something that you've conjoined. You've come to become one. So and obviously the wanting to make sure that everybody is in tune, man. So I'm excited about that. I want to ask one last question. You got 90 seconds, Keith. You got 90 seconds, Meg. You both are not just servant leaders towards helping others. You are giving out information and now having to live that lifestyle and try your hardest. Keith, you talked about that white table talk. So in 90 seconds or less, Meg getting ready to celebrate 18 years and Keith getting ready to celebrate 25. Give me a nugget. You know, what is helped you guys to continue to go to live that thriving, sexual, thrilling marriage. So Keith, I'll start with you.
If I had to say the one thing that is constantly has been helpful is, or I'd say 2 things, is to constantly learn your partner and be able to say, I'm sorry. That's big.
Yeah, we're gonna drop the mic. I appreciate that, man. I wasn't prepared. I thought you had more. You saw the subtle pause, but hey, man, to be able to apologize, man, to say that you were wrong and be it in sincere way, yeah, and then not take 3 days. Yeah, I could dig that. So, Meg, how about yourself, man? What do you want to leave with the people?
Yeah, that was just boom. Say you're sorry. Like, if we could all learn to do that, wouldn't that make life a little easier sometimes? I would say, you mentioned like how do you have a sexually fulfilling marriage and all that kind of stuff. And one thing I would say in that part of your life is just embrace the fact that sex is not one thing. Intimacy is not one thing. There is funny sex and awkward sex and messy sex. And yes, there's deeply sacred, connected sex. Like there's all different kinds. And just like the same with intimacy, there are fun, intimate moments, and then there are deep, serious where you're having the conversations that really matter and you need to get into, you know, to heavy duty conversations. There's all types of intimacy. There's the intimacy actually of even familiarity and just knowing that you know what they're going to say, or you've got that little vibe between the two of you. So I would just say that open up your mind to explore that what we have right now can always expand. What we have right now in this relationship, there are always new ways that we could experience sex and intimacy, and they're all good.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Relationships Part 1. So we've got Meg Cowan. Please go follow her at Meg C. Cowan. It's on the screen. We also have Keith Dent. Please go follow him at Keith_Dent. So join us next week as we continue this conversation on all things relationships, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Next week, we'll dive into recognizing relationship red flags, abuse in the relationship, and what is considered toxic? For part 2 of this conversation, our guest will be Jannard Moore. Jannard is a relationship coach and podcast creator who believes marriage should be 100-100, not 50-50. We also have Lucia Duff. Lucia is a women empowerment coach who advocates for women in abusive relationships. So set your alarms, Siri, Alexa, and Google Home for next Sunday, February 21st at 6 p.m. live on our Facebook page at YM4C or our YouTube channel at YM4C TV. As always, I appreciate the fellas for another dope night. For all those who are listening and support, please continue to do such. We love you like cooked food. We always want to leave you on a positive, and tonight will be no different. So tonight's quote says, you need to love yourself so much to the point that your energy and aura rejects anyone who doesn't know your worth. As always, it's your boy, bro Troy, a.k.a. Mr. YM4C, and we are the Bro Code.